Hey, what's going on, everybody? I've been doing some thinking. I had an out-of-body experience I'm going to share with you. And, you know, that's really what happens, you know, when you start traveling out-of-body. It really gets you thinking about shit that otherwise you wouldn't. And, but anyways, I laid down, and pretty soon I was pushing out of my body, and I was struggling to get out. So I had to kind of fight my way out, you know, and I'm kind of like, you know, struggling to get up, you know. And finally I make it to the end of the bed, and I kind of look around, you know, trying to get my bearings, you know, and I realize I'm still too close to my body. So what I done is I dove towards the bedroom door and took off into the living room, and I see my girlfriend on the couch, and I see like my cats or whatever, and I decide to go out the front door, and I take off through the front door, and when I come out, I see my dad sitting in the yard, and I'm like, what the fuck, you know? So I go up to him, and he's like, hey, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? You know, and I'm kind of thinking, you know, because I'm real lucid, and I'm like, man, it's hard to explain, you know. I travel out of body a lot, and sometimes, you know, you see some weird shit, but you know, sometimes you think, you know, it's not your dad, you know, because, you know, my dad's not out of his body, you know. So I'm kind of thinking, you know, and I turn around and I see him again, and he comes out the front door, and I look, and there's two of my dad, and I'm like, what the fuck, right? There's two of them. So at that point, I was like, alright, what the hell's going on, you know? I was like, look, I don't know who you are, if you're somebody else, or I'm perceiving you, you know? And this is all kind of non-verbally. It's how most of the communication's done. If you try to actually speak while out of body, it sounds muffled and in the wind, you know? It's all done like non-verbally. But I was like, I don't know if I'm just perceiving you, but I was like, let me get a perception of who you really are. And when I did that, I was flipped around, and, you know, I wasn't in control, you know. I was flipped around towards the street away from them, and I was like, what the fuck, right? I wasn't in control. So I started to phase out, and I'm like, damn. So I look at my hands real quick, right, to stabilize me, and I'm like, clarity now. And as my vision started to fade out, you know, I looked at my hands a couple more times, and I phased back, you know. And I'm no longer where I was. I look around, and I'm just in the real time zone, and I just see trees around me. I'm just like outside, standing around, and I'm like, what the fuck, right? And pretty soon I see like a black cloud forms and spins and goes around, and then I come back to my body, and I've experienced that before. But I was thinking, when I was turned around, it was like somebody sent me back to my body, right? And then I looked at my hands, and I managed to hold myself there, and I seen that I was just standing in the woods. So it's like everything that I was perceiving was being created, you know? And then you think, like, okay, but who? Who's creating this, you know? And this is what I tell you guys, you gotta ask these questions. You know, who's creating this shit? Who's taking time to show me things, or follow me around, or place this much attention towards me, you know? And I'm like, I don't know, you know, is it my higher self, or, you know, what's it all? So many things you see when you're out of body, and even in a dream, I've realized that nothing is ever just like told to you like, hey, this is the truth, accept it and do this, you know. Basically, you're kind of shown different directions, and the perception that you gain from that, the knowledge that you gain from that, has to be yours and yours only. It's never, hey, this is it, you know. What's real, what's true, is determined by the person. You or me, my truth is different than your truth. I am different than you. And that's what it's all about, really. That's the reason I'm here and you're there. You know, my truth is different than yours. My perception is different than yours. That's the way it's supposed to be. But I'd had an experience like that before. I had gotten out of body several days before, and I was at a house that I had recognized. And when I went up to the door, I noticed that there was a lock on the door. So obviously somebody was saying, "No, don't go that way," you know. And but I wanted in the house, you know, and I was like, I started banging on the door, right, and then the door just comes open finally, and I go in, and I see some shit that you know, I kind of noticed this looks like this, and this, there were some cats there, and each one of them looked the same, and I was like, what? And when I started questioning shit, like, okay, what's going on here, you know, and when I started doing all that, there's that freaking gray cloud in front of my face again, and then I'm back in my body. So I don't know, I mean, this could be like what we go through when we dream, or same thing with astral projections, you know, it's all a perception, something being shown to you, you know. I think it's just a growing process, you know, just to gather your own, you know, whatever, I mean, I don't know, you know, but I mean, if anybody has experienced something like this, then, you know, I'd love to hear about it, so hit me up.